Alright, for this video, this is for my introduction to botany quiz. And the first question is, what characteristics would I use to describe a plant? So, the first one would probably be, is there a presence of chlorophyll? That one's pretty easy to spot because then the organism would be green. And chlorophyll is the primary pigment for photosynthesis, which is really important to plants, how they produce their energy. Which is like brings me to my next point of does this organism use starch to store its carbohydrates that it's created from photosynthesis? And on a more physical level, does the organism have an apical meristem, which is basically a group of cells on the at the top and like very in like the bottom of a plant, which promote continuous growth. So promotes like growth of roots and like grows the promotes growth of the body of the plant. And and then this brings me to reproduction. Does the plant have an alternation of generations cycle? I think it's called. Um, so does it like swing between or back and forth from asexual and sexual reproduction? Which brings to, does it have gametes? So, and are those gametes protected by a sterile cell jacket? Which is just group is this a collection of cells that basically income like basically cover again the cell's gamete to protect it. Um, and then, or does it produce spores, basically? And are those spores encompassed by or encased in sporal pollen? And from either one of those outcomes, from either one of those, does it produce a multicellular embryo? And that would be my answer for the first question. And so the second question is basically plant like the timeline of plant evolution. So 6.5 billion years ago, there were cyanobacteria, colonies of them that basically produced oxygen and created the ozone layer on Earth. And from the creation of the ozone layer and all the oxygen present, there came to be like the first plants, which were non-vascular plants like moss, right? And through those non-vascular plants, obviously they would be sprouting in different parts of the world, different parts of Earth, which have pretty different environments, which would promote plant diversity in the form of like evolving based on their environment. And so that would bring me to the different kinds of plants that we have. So we have non-vascular plants. Basically, those are like the mosses. Like they don't have vascular tissue to carry water and food throughout its body, or throughout its tissue. And then we have seedless vascular plants, which are like ferns. They do not produce seeds. Obviously, it's in the name. They don't produce seeds. They reproduce through spores. So yeah, like a fern. That's really, really well-known example. And then there's I think there's the gymnosperms. Those ones are basically they reproduce through cones and seeds. So like pine trees, those are really a really common example, like pine cones. And then there's agniosperms, which are basically like they're on the evolutionary timeline. They're pretty new, not really that new to us, but they produce fruit and flowers. Like they use fruit and flowers to reproduce. And that's what I have for plant evolution. And then for uses of plants and how their uses have changed throughout history. So uses of plants, there's tons of uses for plants. from paper to, excuse me, paper to fossil fuels to medicine. There's a bunch of uses for plants, and we've discovered those uses throughout time. Like we didn't immediately know that plants like are really good for medicine. We when we first started with like learning how to breed plants, is we usually just bred them in a way that they would produce more food, and that was in a time period of like 1000 BC to 1500 AD. Like we were focused on how much food they would produce. And then from 1500 AD to 1800 AD, we were looking at them, and we were looking at plants in a more scientific and more cultural way. So they had more significance other than how much food can you produce. Um, and that's when I think uh, that's when scientific, like in-depth scientific interest of plants came to be. And then there was 1800 AD to now, the present. We basically breed plants to our specific needs. So whether it's for medicine or clothes, we have a more complex way of breeding plants. It's not just like to produce more food. That's one way. That's one thing we do, but it's more complex now. There's more specific things they use to target, like there's more specific genes they target to like breed plants and stuff. It's more and more advanced now. Um, and we can find certain compounds in plants that might help with medicine. Um, so yeah, we use them for we basically breed them for in more specific ways. And that's my answer for the third question, which I think is the final question. So thank you. All of the information that was given in this video, is from the lecture, um, is from the Introduction to Botany lecture. And yeah, those are my answers to the quiz. Thank you.